I'm joined by Simon Bocca, founder of PayCaptain, to talk about innovating payroll to better engage employees. Remarking on today's technology and trends, can the payroll process be transformed into an employee benefit? Hi Simon, how are you?
Hi, I'm very well, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for joining us today in the studio.
Thank you.
So let's kick things off and talk about payroll innovation. What does that mean to you?
Well, payroll innovation is super important right now because especially as companies are doing a lot of innovating themselves, they're trying to build new processes and think about new ways of working, whether that's because of Brexit, because of COVID, because of just trying to stay competitive. And quite often the payroll function is actually left out of some of those processes, which can of course lead into real frustration and extra administration work for an already very busy department. So I think technology can play a really pivotal role in making a difference with this. If technology enables companies to be agile, to be flexible, it can really support payroll professionals with the power to set and define and be creative around their pay and reward strategies to ultimately help their business be even better.
And looking at payrollers today, do you think they have the time and scope to be innovative?
Well, there definitely has been a lot of change in the payroll world over the last 12 months in particular, whether that's job retention scheme, furlough schemes, IR35. So it's fair to say that there has already been a lot of change, but unfortunately, a lot of those changes are quite reactive. It's been, things that were thrust upon the organisation to do, and unfortunately, they haven't been things that really improve the employee experience or improve the employer value proposition. So there has been a challenge with finding time to innovate, but it's become more and more apparent that this is super important to focus on now.
And we focus there on the employee experience, but there would be an argument that that's HR's responsibility, rewards responsibility. Do you think payroll have a responsibility for that user experience?
Well, overall, the employee life cycle is pretty big, starting off with talent attraction, recruitment, selection, and all of those processes have typically had so much love and care and attention to them, including things like learning and development. But payroll has historically not had much of that same focus, that on-brand experience for employees. And now I think, because it's such an important part of life, having a job and getting paid for it, this part of the employee life cycle can really be enhanced now because of technology, because of new payment methodologies and new ways of thinking and the importance of the employee experience. So I do think that payroll does have an important role to play, and not just leaving employee experience and this type of innovation to other parts of the HR function.
And I'm sure payrollers watching will be very pleased to hear that too. I'm sure they'll be agreeing. And you mentioned then about sort of new payroll products and payment products, and on-demand is getting so much more popular. Even before the pandemic it was, but it's really picking up traction now. And I know PayCaptain offers this, but you say the service is a little bit different, or you think about it in a different sort of fashion. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, definitely on-demand pay and earned wage access or income streaming has been a real benefit to many people, in particular people that have really struggled in between paydays and then had to resort to expensive forms of credit and payday loan companies and so forth. We do think about it a little bit differently because most people in the UK are paid monthly, and most people's bills are monthly as well. So that sort of harmonisation between your income and expenses is actually quite helpful and needs to be protected. With PayCaptain, we've enabled the concept of emergency cash to enable employees, if they're really stuck for cash in between payday, they can access some funds from their accrued earnings at any point up until the payday. And we also allow employees to take a weekly advance payment, and that's specifically for the costs associated with having a job, your train fare, your petrol money, your lunch monies, and so forth. And that sort of cost of having a job, or the financial cost of having a job, is sometimes overlooked, and we think it's really important to support everybody with that weekly expenses capability. If it will help them manage their money better, then it's a great solution for people. And lastly, we have a concept of flexible payments, which basically allows certain pay elements to be sent at any time during the pay period. So quite often, things like bonuses or commissions or recommend a friend or your length of service award might just get rolled up and hidden away on your pay slip that you don't look at the end of the month. So flexible payments actually allow an employee to have the choice as to when they receive their pay. They get a push notification to their phone and they can choose. Do you want it now? Do you want it to your savings account? Do you want to put it to your pension pot with a government top-up? Or would you like to donate some of it to charity? So that sort of on-demand, real-time option to how you receive certain pay elements, so you have a better relationship with an understanding of pay and receiving the pay, we thought would be really key.
Yeah, and there's two things I wanted to pick up on there. And the first one was just the way you talk about the sort of on-demand elements. So you have like the emergency fund and then a week in advance, because I think a lot of people look at on-demand and sometimes think of it negatively because they think their employees are going to be able to draw down all their money in one go and be left with none at the end. But the way you guys position it makes much more sense, and it's that communication element. So I think that's really positive.
Thank you. Well, I think it's the key thing for us is about helping employees with a monthly payment budget, monthly expenses budget, because ultimately it's all about maintaining a plan so you spend less than you earn. And because so many people haven't received financial education or guidance on how to manage their money well, we wanted to incorporate all of that inside our solution as well.
And that makes sense with the second thing as well, with the bonuses and different things like that being able to be paid at any time, because that, again, engages the employee in a different fashion, like you said, mentioning whether they want to draw it down and put it into a pension pot, which is great for employee well-being and financial well-being. So I'm sure all the payroll and reward people will be loving that at home now. It's
definitely the idea is to give employees more control, more flexibility of how they manage their money in a way that they want to manage their money, sort of similar to how they're managing money with modern banking apps like Monzo and Revolut. People are so much used to now, that type of control, that flexibility on your phone of managing your money. And why shouldn't that start with the payroll process? On the basis it's the sort of primary or sole source of inbound funds for the majority of people. Actually having some flexibility and control over how, when and where you receive your pay, I think is an important employee benefit for modern employees.
And it makes complete sense. So obviously you've heard a little bit about PayCaptain there and what you guys do, but can you talk to me more broadly about why you decided to create PayCaptain and what you do in totality?
Sure. Overall, I mean, I was working in technology for HR payroll technology for 16 years prior to starting PayCaptain, but still really felt that technology was a big issue across the UK. Many companies really struggling with keying data in multiple times, not integrating with other solutions, not embracing latest payment technologies like faster payments, and stuck on the BACS process, and really the technology not working for the people processing the payroll, but then also not really working for the people receiving the pay as well. No real experience about getting paid. And as I said earlier, it's such an important factor of having a job and receiving your hard-earned money that the experience of being paid could be and should be better with the technology available today. And that was predominantly around having flexibility, demystifying some of the terminology and the concepts about pension, national insurance, taxes, and salary sacrifice, which is confusing for the best of us, and making that really clear and really simple so that people could manage their money, manage their pay, understand how to the best ways to support their financial well-being and manage their money, and have that all in one place. So that's what I wanted to do. Started with a blank sheet of paper and built PayCaptain in January last year.
Amazing. And I think many people at home, or maybe people in the finance industry, would be thinking, actually, don't employees just want a straightforward pay slip? But actually, as you've spoken about it being or becoming an employee benefit, and it is your main source of income, which feeds into things like your bank account on Monzo and Revolut, that actually going forward, younger generations entering the workplace probably want more than just a simple, straightforward pay slip.
Well, yeah, I think it's fair to say many people do just want a very simple pay slip, and they just want the money to be put into their bank account at the end of the month, and they can handle everything else themselves. What we see now is that people do want more flexibility. There's been quite a lot of research from other payroll providers about the importance of giving flexibility to employees around their pay, and giving people the option to, receive some of their money before the structured, the typical payday, or donating money to charities, or putting money into their savings account, and having really good visibility over what's going on in their pension pot as well, and what their future retirement income could be. These are all things that are so explicitly linked to pay, and therefore should be part of the payroll process that are provided to by some of the best employers that do really think about the full employee life cycle and the full employee experience, and pay is a critical part of that.
Most definitely. Money does indeed make the world go round, as much as people hate to admit it. And you mentioned charity then, and obviously payroll giving is a known thing. It's been done for years, but no one, I don't think, really does it or does it that well, or no employees, well, that I speak to that often pick up on it or know about it. But it's becoming increasingly important. More and more people want to give, especially after the pandemic. And I know you guys have digital payroll giving. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, we did something quite unique, I think, really, when we thought about payroll giving. We set up a charity to sit alongside PayCaptain, which is an HMRC-approved payroll giving agency, because typically the process for payroll giving is actually very administrative. It's quite clunky. It takes a lot of time. Finance are involved, payroll are involved, the employees are filling in pieces of paper and moving them backwards and forwards, and the whole thing is actually quite tedious and painful. So we wanted to just make it to transform this, make it very engaging for employees to choose the charities they care about inside the PayCaptain app, choose how much they want to donate, and press save, and they're done. So it took away all of the paperwork, all of the extra burden that payroll departments and finance departments have to do around this, and we just manage the whole process. And we enable the payment, the donation, to be sent to the charity on the same day as the employee gets paid, which typically is a much longer process if using the more traditional payroll giving solutions out there.
And giving to charity, research has found that it improves people's well-being, so it's becoming more popular within employers and how they're going to do this to help. But what would you say the position is of payroll to support employee well-being?
Well, again, because payroll is the process that puts money in people's hands, having financial education, financial guidance alongside that process does feel like an important responsibility, really, for employers to enable and support their employees to manage their money in the best possible way. Now, of course, people might argue that, what they do with their money is nothing to do with us, and, it's their responsibility, they can do what they like with it, which of course is actually true. However, it is important to support people and signposting them with really good information about pension, about taxes, about how to pay your bills, and how to use that money wisely that is being sent to them. And one of the other really important reasons for that is because financial well-being has a direct correlation to financial stress in the workplace, which is the #1 reason why employees are absent or not productive at work. So there is fundamentally important strategic reasons why financial well-being should be the responsibility for or supported by the payroll function.
I would most definitely agree. And we spoke about, obviously, payroll being strategic in supporting employees, but how can payroll be strategic in supporting the employer?
Well, I think payroll sitting on a lot of valuable information about pay and about employees and about productivity. And I think now, more than ever, as businesses need to be creative and to set themselves apart from their competition, the payroll function has got this opportunity to really help leadership of companies to define and implement the best pay and reward strategies for their organization. I also think concepts like diversity and inclusion and equality, payroll are really well suited to support this and analyze that data and to influence and encourage fair, transparent and optimal strategies and processes for their organization. Technology is the barrier, I think, for so many instances of this, and why the payroll professionals aren't able to, elevate the conversation because they haven't got the data. So I think the technology is key, and that can unlock payroll professionals to be super important for this, the world of work, which is ever constantly changing.
Mm-hmm. And becoming strategic can help raise the profile of payroll.
Absolutely.
It's obviously been raised during the pandemic. Payrollers have been classed as key workers, and having furlough to deal with has obviously raised their profile internally and hopefully with the board. But do you think that strategic payrollers and being strategic is going to be key now to keeping the profile raised?
Yes, definitely. I think it's inevitable there's going to be more challenges for the future, whether it's red tape and compliance and more legislation. I think paying fair, being transparent, and having the right policies in place for an organisation to support their people and to facilitate their success is only going to get more and more important. I think where people will be working, in other countries. Some of these policies that some large organisations are adopting now about working from anywhere, perhaps that's the importance of international payments, but things like time tracking and really being able to analyse the data to support good business decisions, I think is going to be really key.
So we know technology is key for improving employee engagement via payroll and obviously improving data using data to improve, practices in the workplace. So how easy would it be for a company to change their payroll solution to be with PayCaptain and use your technology?
Well, I think changing payroll systems is definitely a lot easier than it used to be. In particular, an FPS file has now got all the information to balance a payroll and do that very, very quickly. I think it's important, though, before making any change, that really understand the benefits of making a change, because it is a significant change to move a payroll provider or change your payroll software. The integrations are key. The milestones, the goals associated with the change all should be really well defined and having really good success criteria. And I think now the opportunity is directly related to sort of core HR metrics and KPIs. So what's the impact to staff retention? What's the impact to staff engagement and productivity? These are also important considerations when thinking about changing such an important piece of HR technology. But overall, I think organizations do need a platform that gives them the ability to be agile, the ability to be creative, and empowers them with the data to make really good decisions.
And for those watching who want to adapt, they want to change, they want to update their technology, where should they start?
Well, I think buy-in is really important inside the organisation, and you can only really get buy-in if you can really articulate well why you want to make a change. What's broken today, what's causing the pain in the company or pain in the department, what will be the return on investment, what are the benefits of making a change. And I think this is now, I think it's the same for all business technology really, but because payroll is so mission critical and so much precision and accuracy and timely processing is critical, people are quite often nervous about making changes. But So I really feel it's about articulating the change very well, the benefits, and having very clear milestones for going on that journey. And of course, it does vary based on the size of the organisation and some of the other systems in play. But I think having working with a partner that takes the responsibility, or a big part of the responsibility, for the successful transition and successful implementation of a new system is key. After all, it's the payroll provider that has got that experience of implementing new systems all the time, which doesn't necessarily, those skills and that expertise doesn't normally reside in-house. So choosing the right partner and having a very clear plan.
And reflecting on your experience in the market and industry in terms of pay and HR tech, what one thing do you wish you knew when you started out?
I think really the whole concept of financial well-being, ultimately. I think I wish I knew a lot more about that 16 years ago. I think the impact that payroll can make to people's lives to help them manage their pay and help them manage their money, help them save for retirement, help them have a rainy day fund, help them avoid payday loan companies, etc., help them improve their financial well-being by giving to charities and having a solid plan. I wish I knew all of that stuff 16 years ago, because I think it could have made a big difference to a lot of people's lives. But I am really glad that obviously these are concepts that are hot topics right now and companies are embracing, and I'm super excited to be doing it now.
Thank you very much, Simon. Don't go anywhere. We have another session in just 5 minutes. Okay, so we don't have another session in just 5 minutes. We now have a live Q&A with Simon, who's joining me virtually. Simon, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Have you been enjoying the conference?
Yes, great so far. Really good. Really lots of great content.
Oh, perfect. I'm glad you're enjoying it. So we've got a few minutes now for a Q&A, and I've got a few questions I wanted to ask you as well. So for the payrollers at home who are watching or from their office, and they've not changed technology in, say, 10 years, because we know payroll doesn't change tech that often, how easy would it be for them to use your technology if they were to change? Because it can be quite scary when people haven't changed tech in so long and they're so used to a certain system, especially if it is old and clunky and a legacy system.
Well, I think one of the important things is always understanding the sort of the as-is processes in place in an organisation versus the to-be processes. Obviously, with changing payroll systems, it's always got to be because there's a material benefit of doing so, and you're getting a return on investment, and you're improving automation inside the organisation, and you're improving the employee experience. So I think it's all about really understanding the change, and then having a very clear step-by-step process to sort of go through that, and really leveraging the sort of the services of the implementation team to make sure that all of the boxes are ticked and it's a really seamless process. One of the key things, obviously, is about managing the data and ensuring data is accurate and balanced, and that's obviously a key part of any implementation process to a new payroll system. But with PayCaptain, we have a specific team that sort of do this day in and day out, and we try and make the process really easy for people, because it can be scary. And as I said earlier, it's such a mission-critical part of the system, of the overall employee life cycle, and part of running a business. It's just got to be done properly, and it's got to be done accurately.
And in terms of reward and HR professionals getting on board with that sort of process, is it quite easy for them to use? Do many reward and HR professionals get involved as well and look at the pay side of things?
Well, yes, and this is the piece really about where we're trying to unlock the opportunity for pay and reward professionals to be more creative and be more strategic around how they implement new policies and procedures. So the piece specifically around enabling payments to go to employees at different times during the pay period, and allowing employees to decide whether they want to put that money into their current account or their savings account or their pension pot, or donate some of it to charity. Those are the really sort of key pieces around how putting money into employees' hands can now be more creative about how organisations actually do that.
And picking up on that in terms of sort of the pay on demand and the different ways you can structure that and sort of market that to your employees, what would you say to some pay and reward professionals who are a little bit scared of on-demand pay? Because obviously there's a lot of press about it, positive and negative, and I think some people are just scared to go anywhere near it.
Well, I think it is. It's definitely something that needs careful consideration and careful planning. There is a lot of instances the words financial well-being are sort of tagged against on-demand pay, but that does need some careful thought. And the flexibility that some of the payroll providers now have, in particular, enabling faster payments being directly incorporated inside the payroll engine, that's where you can really think about the employee experience and how an on-demand pay facility might really benefit and add value to the employees, improve their productivity, improve their job satisfaction, improve their financial well-being, and actually have these capabilities that add value to the organisation overall and make the place a better, improve staff retention, improve staff morale, and staff productivity. That's really the purpose of these initiatives, to make the experience of work fit for the way people live their lives today, motivating and engaging.
It's also seeing payroll become more strategic and being seen as more of a value-add function, which we spoke about in the session, and we also spoke about this in some of yesterday's sessions with some pay and reward professionals. So I also wondered, in terms of PayCaptain's capabilities, about analysing data and what you can do in that sense. Is it easy for payroll to go in and see, who's taking up on demand, or whether they're measuring data when it comes to gender pay gap reporting and ethnicity minority pay gap reporting going forward, whether there'll be anything that can help there?
Well, definitely. I mean, I didn't mention in the session that, but PayCaptain's built on Salesforce, which enables us to be very analytical and build reports and dashboards and alerts and dashboard components very quickly and easily, so that whether it's the HR function, the payroll function, or the reward function, be able to get that view into the pay and rewards data and actually how employees are engaging with their pay. So yes, with obviously with the appropriate data for demographics and diversity data, that can then be very insightful and to help drive new policies and update existing frameworks for managing pay and people.
Most definitely. And another thing we picked up on yesterday was the importance of technology and using apps going forward so everyone can access their pay. And I mean, PayCaptain is obviously very future focused. And can you tell me about your sort of plans for the next year or so?
Well, we've just got so much on our roadmap. Actually, we want to continue focusing from an international perspective. We do think that that's going to be more and more important. Perhaps people would like to receive some of their pay in different currencies, either because they're going abroad or because they are working abroad for a period of time. But that working from anywhere type of arrangement. And then just continuing the sort of scope around payroll. So whether that's about expenses, employee self-service, and really just continuing to drive the employee experience around receiving pay, understanding your pay, and having choices for how you receive it and when you receive it.
No, that sounds great, especially with the working model now where you can, or if you're allowed to, you can work from abroad and in different countries. So I think that would be really great to be able to draw down in whichever currency you like, as long as you're giving us a great exchange rate, of course.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's all we have time for, Simon. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much. See you soon.